I never imagined being called a family failure could lead to my unbelievable redemption. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The room was thick with a tension that felt suffocating. My heart raced, pounding like a drum in my chest. I stood there, frozen, as the words sliced through the air, my father's voice breaking, filled with disappointment. "You've ruined this family," he exclaimed, eyes blazing. It was as if the ground beneath me had crumbled. Tears streamed down my face, each drop a reminder of the shame curling in my gut. I was only 23, haunted by dreams that seemed so distant now. My hands trembled, clenching into fists, as I thought of my mom waiting in the living room, her silence louder than any argument. She always believed in me. But in that moment, I felt like a ghost in my own life, invisible and unwanted. My little brother Lucas peeked around the doorframe, concern etching into his young face. I wanted to reach out to gather him close and shield him from this nightmare, but I was the one needing saving. Growing up, I had always been the odd one out. While my siblings excelled in academics, I struggled to find my footing. I chased fleeting passions, art, music, writing, but they never stuck. Now they had turned their backs on me. My father's disappointment hung like a cloud, dark and heavy. I could almost taste his anger, sharp as vinegar. Each word was a knife, slicing deeper into the fabric of our family. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, a knock resonated through the tension. It was my aunt, an enigmatic figure draped in mystery. She arrived unannounced, like a storm brewing, her dark hair flowing wildly behind her. "I've got something for you," she declared, pulling a crumpled piece of paper from her coat pocket. I had no clue what it could be, but her intense gaze sent chills up my spine. The room hushed. All eyes were on her, and I felt every heartbeat echo in the stillness. "You're not a failure, Alice. You just haven't found your call," she said, her words both a balm and a sting. I glanced at my parents, their expressions a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Then she handed me the paper. My breath caught. It was a letter from a prestigious art school. A chance I thought I'd lost forever. Could this really be a lifeline? Or was it just another way to dangle hope before my eyes, only to snatch it away? Hope and despair battled within me, and I felt my heart racing faster. The thought of leaving this cocoon of pain and stepping into a world where I could finally be free was intoxicating. But as I stared at the letter, a deeper question gnawed at me. What would it cost? Would I lose my family forever? At that moment, the weight of my choices pressed heavily on my shoulders. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into an abyss. Would I jump toward my dreams? Or cling to the pain of this moment, afraid of the dizzying fall? The silence around me deepened, the tension electric. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence hung like a heavy fog, pressing down on my chest. My fingers brushed over the letter, the paper slightly crinkled from my aunt's hurried grip. A chance, a lifeline thrown into my turbulent sea. But as I looked up, the eyes of my parents, particularly my father's, loomed large in my mind. Would they ever accept my choice? Would they ever truly forgive me for my failures? I felt Lucas' small hand find its way into mine, an innocent anchor in the storm. His warmth resonated through me, a flicker of hope in the dark. "Aunt Tara, can I see?" He piped up, looking from the letter to me, excitement shimmering in his young eyes. I didn't want to dampen his spirit, but the weight of my decision held me paralyzed. I glanced at my parents, their expressions locked in skepticism. "Maybe we should discuss this later?" my mother suggested carefully, her tone softening the atmosphere just a touch. I could hear the concern woven in her words, but the hesitation lingered. My father gave a curt nod, his jaw tight, the disappointment still fresh. "No, this is important," Aunt Tara insisted, her voice slicing through the tension. "Alice has a chance to explore her passion. Don't you want her to succeed? This is what every parent dreams of for their child, a shot at something real." Why is it always about chasing dreams? Dreams don't pay the bills. My father snapped, his frustration spilling over. I flinched at the anger in his voice, each word a reminder of the reality we faced. It's not just about bills, Dad. What about happiness? What about finding something that makes me happy? He interrupted, and the bitter edge to his voice silenced me instantly. You think that will come from abandoning your responsibilities? I can't be responsible if I'm suffocating. The words slipped from my mouth before I could stop them, raw and unrefined, and the room turned even colder. Lucas squeezed my hand tighter, his innocent grasp keeping me tethered to the moment. Aunt Tara's eyes softened, defiance flickering in their depths. You're so much more than your failures, Alice. This letter is a start, a first step. You mustn't let anyone dictate who you can become. Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but fear not at my insides. What if stepping away meant losing my family? The suffocating weight of expectation crushed me. Just give it a chance, she urged, and the genuineness in her voice stirred something within me, a longing for liberation, a desire to paint the canvas of my life anew. With a shaky breath I said, maybe if I just took the next step, visited the school, saw what it's all about, I could figure things out. I won't abandon you all. Promise. For a moment the fear in my parents' eyes flickered, giving way to uncertainty, but before anyone could respond, Lucas interrupted. I want to go too. Can I? His innocent face broke the tension with a lightness that I hadn't felt all afternoon. My heart swelled with warmth at the idea of sharing this journey with him, but it was abruptly washed away by the realization that my decision could tear my family apart. As the discussions went on, I could feel my resolve strengthening. Perhaps this was my chance, a tiny spark of hope in the overwhelming dark. But my heart was still in turmoil, clouded with dread over what this leap would truly mean. After gathering our emotions, the conversation turned quieter, reflecting a sudden understanding. In the midst of that tempest, I felt a visceral longing for recognition from my parents. Could they see me, really see me, emerging from the shadows of their disappointment? The day slipped away, marked by silent glances and muted conversations, each one laden with the unspoken fear, hope, rebellion. In the quiet of my own thoughts, I knew that every choice had cost attached, each direction a string pulling taut on my heart. As night fell, I found myself perched on the edge of my bed, the letter crumpled on my bedside table. The shadows of doubt crept back in, but with the light from Lucas' small nightlight flickering, I felt a sliver of optimism bleeding through. Just as I reached for the letter one last time, the door creaked open. It was my mother, her silhouette framed in the doorway. Alice, she began hesitantly, and my heart raced at what she might say. Can we talk? The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty. My heart thudded in my chest as I prepared to face the tumult of emotions, all that had been left unsaid. This was the moment I had both craved and dreaded. But before I could respond, the sound of glass shattering echoed from the living room, shards scattering like pieces of my fragile hope across the floor. The commotion split my thoughts in half, fear clawing at my throat. What now? A family already on the edge now faced an unforeseen challenge. My eyes widened in alarm, knowing somehow that this might irrevocably change everything. The chaos in the living room pulled me from my thoughts, the shards of glass glinting ominously in my mind. There was a moment of silence, a suspended breath before I felt the electricity of panic in the air. My mother's expression shifted, morphing into a rush of concern that matched the cadence of my heartbeat. Stay here, she instructed, her voice strained yet protective, but the instinct to move, to know what was happening, propelled me out of my room. I gripped the doorframe, my pulse thrumming. As I crossed the threshold, I was met with a scene of confusion. A lamp lay on the floor, its bulb flickering helplessly as my father crouched near it, eyes darkened with a mixture of frustration and fear. What happened? I asked, my voice a thread weaving through the chaos. I just knocked it over accidentally, my father said, running a hand through his hair, exposing the cracks in his usually sturdy facade. I'm fine. But there was a tremor in his voice that told a different story. His hands were unsteady, and the urgency in his movements screamed of deeper worry, one that had nothing to do with the lamp. Then I noticed Hermie, mother wide-eyed, staring not just at the mess but through it, as though she were seeing something much weightier than broken glass. David, she said softly, almost desperately, it's not just the lamp. We need to talk. The air thickened with apprehension. I took a step closer, driven by concern. Talk about what? The silence that followed felt interminable. Every search for words heavy with unspoken battles and buried truths. My father straightened, his eyes finally meeting mine. And in that brief space, I glimpsed a vulnerability that was rarely shown. Alice, he said, his tone softer now, what we're facing, it's bigger than just you and your letter. The gravity of his statement settled around us like a shroud. What do you mean? I whispered before he had a chance to reply. Lucas appeared at the threshold, his small figure dwarfed by the turmoil. What's going on? His innocent inquiry tugged at my heart. I crouched, clutching his shoulders. He was a reminder that small moments of light still existed amid the shadows. Everything is okay, buddy, I reassured him, even though my heart quaked. Just a little accident. But Lucas wasn't convinced. His brows crinkled in confusion, tiny fingers gripping my arm like he held on to hope. And amidst the uncertainty, I realized what I had been afraid to acknowledge: the fragility of our family bond. Already stretched thin but never truly broken. Then my mother stepped forward, voice trembling with an emotion I had never heard from her before. Alice, your father and we've been worried about losing each other and you. The strain of everything has felt like it was tearing us apart. We never meant for you to think you were a failure. The words hung like delicate glass in the air. Each syllable resonated deep, wrapping around the hurt I had carried for so long. My heart ached for my parents, as their own vulnerabilities fell from their lips, raw and unguarded. Dad, I started, but he held up a hand and "No, let me finish," he said, determination pushing through his usual stoicism. We've been scared. Scared of change, scared of what it would mean to support you fully, but I see now how much you need this. I don't want to lose you, and I certainly don't want you to feel like a failure. Tears pricked my eyes, and the realization that my parents too felt trapped ushered a wave of empathy that crashed over any lingering anger. Yet, the thought of following my own dreams felt like a stack of delicate plates perched atop a shaky table. From behind me, a dull thud echoed as something else fell. I twitched, my breath catching. Lucas had knocked a framed photograph of our family to the ground. The glass cracked, a reflection of our state, yet the image remained an ideal we struggled to reach. Look, my mother said softly, kneeling to pick up the photo while keeping her steady gaze on me. Change feels messy, but it's inevitable. Hope sparked within me, fragile yet potent. Their acknowledgement of my struggle, the desire to support my true self, shifted something within. Maybe, just maybe, we could learn to navigate this storm together. Not as adversaries but as allies forging a new path. I took a deep breath. So, if I take that step, you'll support me? I asked, almost incredulously, needing reassurance that this time would be different, that judgment would no longer course through the walls of our home. After a moment that stretched into eternity, my father nodded slowly. If it's your passion, then we'll find a way. But we have to talk about everything that's kept us apart first. No more hiding. Just as relief washed over me, the doorbell rang suddenly, jarring us from the moment. The house instantly transformed into a cauldron of uncertainty again. My heart raced. Who could it be? A visitor who might either sever this fragile peace or be the unexpected spark of kindness we didn't know we needed. I exchanged glances with my parents and then led the way to the door, each step shadowed by the weight of impending revelations. As I opened the door, I was greeted by a face I never expected to see again. Alice? The voice was gentle, yet it caught in my throat like splintered glass. It was Jason, my childhood friend, a ghost from my past, standing there, eyes filled with concern and an unmistakable sense of understanding. With his arrival came an urgency that clutched at my heart, a reminder that the complexities of my life were far from over. I had no idea what this moment would bring, or how his presence would change everything. But as the door swung open wider, I felt the world shift beneath my feet once more, ready to plunge me deeper into the tumult where hope and hurt intertwine, leaving my family at the precipice of potential redemption or complete upheaval. The air hung thick with unspoken words as Jason stood there, the remnants of our shared past flickering to life in the depths of his green eyes. Alice, he began, hesitating as though he was testing the waters of our strained friendship. I heard about your letter and everything else that I didn't know what to say. Part of me was elated to see him, a lifeline thrown back into the turbulent waters of my life. Yet another part was all too aware of the past that loomed like a dark cloud between us. His arrival felt both like a reprieve and a reminder of all the moments I had chosen to erase from my memory. I stepped aside, allowing him into the threshold of our home. My family watched cautiously, a mixture of curiosity and unease flashing across their faces. "What are you doing here?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Jason stepped further into the living room, and as he did, it was as if he brought a gust of fresh air, clearing some of the tension hanging above our heads. "I wanted to check on you," he said, his tone steadying my frazzled nerves. "I saw your mom at the coffee shop yesterday, and she really seemed worried. I thought maybe it was time for us to talk." That I exchanged glances with my parents, whose expressions reflected the uncertainty we all felt. They need not have said a word. Their eyes communicated a shared understanding. The history we all had with Jason, the childhood memories threaded together with laughter and sorrow, but also the painful fallout that had led to silence. "Can we talk alone?" I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Somehow, I knew that whatever I was about to delve into with Jason would only further complicate the chaotic emotions swirling around my family. He nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his face. We moved toward the kitchen, offering a small slice of privacy amidst the turmoil. "Alice, I'm really glad to see you," he began, his voice softening as he met my gaze. "I've thought about you a lot since he trailed off, the weight of unspoken things resting heavy between us. Since everything happened." "Since the fight?" I replied, the memory of that day resurfacing painfully, both the day we had fallen apart and the day I felt like I had lost a part of myself. "Or since I decided to chase a dream my parents don't seem to understand." He opened his mouth, hesitated, then asked, "Are you okay?" I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. "Define okay. I mean, I just had what felt like the first honest conversation with my parents since forever. And now you show up." "Yeah, about that," he said, running a hand through his hair like he used to when he was deep in thought. "I didn't mean to drop in on you. I just thought," he sighed, frustration mingling with concern. "Alice, you have to know that it's okay to feel lost. I didn't know what to do for years after everything fell apart. I was a mess." I studied him closely, remembering the laughter we once shared, the easy way we communicated without pretense. "But you pulled it together, Jason. How did you do it?" He shrugged, a distant sadness shadowing his smile. "I had to face my own failures. I learned it's not about being perfect, it's about being real with yourself. You have to embrace all parts of you, even the messy ones." His words resonated with the turmoil I felt inside, like a hint of light breaking through dark clouds. "I don't know if I can," I admitted softly. "Everything feels so fragile, like it could break at any moment. One wrong move and it's all over." Jason stepped closer, a warmth surrounding him as he leaned against the cool countertop. "You've taken a brave step just by wanting to chase your dreams. Most people ignore their yearning for fear of what might happen." He hesitated. "And I get it. I ran away. That was my way of handling it. I thought it was easier to distance myself from everyone than to face the disappointment." "You left me," I pointed out, the pain of abandonment seeping into my words. "I know," he replied, his voice edged with remorse. "I was scared and I didn't know how to be your friend, or a son, or even someone who could deal with the chaos. I thought that if I distanced myself it wouldn't hurt as much. But watching you struggle, it made me realize how weak I had been. I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to be there for you." To that moment, I felt a small flicker of hope stirring deep within me, mingling with the lingering shadows of doubt. Jason's presence was now a potential source of strength as I carried the burden of my family's worries and my own restless spirit. But just as I began to feel that tiny glimmer of comfort, the moment shattered as the living room erupted into a frantic discussion once more. I could barely make out my mother's voice raised in worry at the sudden intensity of the conversation. "Did you hear that? The report just came in. Something's happening at the school." My father's voice cut through the turmoil, laden with urgency. I exchanged a glance with Jason, confusion giving way to anxiety. "What do you mean?" "Lockdown," my mother shouted, her eyes wide with fear. "They're locking down the school because of a threat. They want us to stay inside." My heart plummeted, dread coursing through me at the thought of my little brother alone at school, caught in an atmosphere of uncertainty. "Lucas!" I cried, rushing back into the living room. Jason followed closely, the gravity of the situation spurring us forward. My parents were already gathering their phones, locating emergency contacts, but all I could focus on was the frantic beating of my heart. "Dad, we have to get him," I pleaded, panic igniting within me. "He's at the school. What if let's just wait to hear more? We don't know what's really happening yet." My father interrupted, his own fear evident in his eyes. Jason placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "We'll figure this out. Whatever it is, you're not alone anymore." But just as the words left his lips, the lights flickered ominously, plunging us into a momentary darkness before illuminating the room once more. Everything felt spiraled into chaos, and I feared what awaited us beyond the confines of our home as I stood amid my family, a blend of uncertainty and desperation encasing us. I understood that life was far from uncomplicated. We were balancing hope and fear, past and present, ready to either stand together against this new storm or be swept away. In that precarious instant, the door to our future swung wide open, and I braced myself for what lay ahead, knowing we were on the brink of something unfathomably significant. The noise crescendoed outside, a chaotic rhythm of voices and sirens merging into an indistinguishable hum that filled the air with suffocating uncertainty. My heart raced, a wild drum in the symphony of stress and fear that permeated our home. All the while, Jason remained at my side, his hand still resting on my shoulder, a silent promise amid the chaos. "Stay calm, Alice," he whispered, leaning closer so only I could hear. "We'll get through this." I took a deep breath and tried to focus on the comforting weight of his presence. "What if something happens to Lucas?" I murmured, my voice trembling. "He's just a kid, I can't lose him." "Not like this. We won't let anything happen to him," he assured me, voice steady. "I promise." My mother was frantically dialing numbers, her brows knitted together in worry, while my father paced back and forth, his worry manifesting in shaky breaths. I squeezed my eyes shut for a moment, trying to block out the uncertainty. I wished for strength, any glimmer of certainty that would help me anchor myself in the storm. Suddenly, the ringing of my father's phone cut through the tension like a knife. I held my breath, praying that it was news of Lucas, anything to quell the dread pooling in the pit of my stomach. My father fumbled to answer, his fingers trembling noticeably. "Hello? Yes, this is Michael Worth," he spoke, and I could hear the tension in his voice as he listened intently. "Is it a lockdown? Is everyone okay?" I could feel Jason's gaze shift to me, a deep well of concern reflecting in his eyes. My heart raced as I stood there, helpless and desperate, as my father nodded, his expression slightly easing from panic. He finally spoke positively into the phone. "Thank you, we'll be right there." He hung up, and for a moment relief bathed over me like an unanticipated sunlight breaking through the clouds. "The school is safe," he announced, his voice carrying a mixture of anxiety and gratitude. "They're keeping everyone inside until the situation is resolved. But Lucas, he's fine. They're monitoring everything." "Thank God," I breathed, my body sagging with a wave of relief. But my peace was fleeting, as dread quickly settled back into the pit of my stomach. "We need to go pick him up," I insisted, my voice rising with urgency. My mother shook her head, a pained expression crossing her face. "They advised us to stay put until they release the lockdown." "It could be hours or it could be minutes," I interrupted defiantly, my desperation mixing with a fierce protectiveness. "Lucas shouldn't be alone right now. We need to get to him." Before she could respond, Jason stepped forward. "I can go. I'll drive you," he offered, glancing quickly to my parents for their approval, the same determination fueling his voice. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed my father hesitating, fear fighting with the instinct to protect. "But Jason, I know the school well. I can get there and back quickly," Jason interrupted, his tone firm. "We can't just sit here when kids are scared, your brother included. You need to be with him." My father opened his mouth to argue, but Jason continued, "If they're safe inside and you can trust that, then let me take Alice to him. It's what she needs right now." My gaze rested on Jason, feeling an unexpected rush of gratitude. In this harrowing moment, he was stepping up in solidarity, once again becoming the person I wish he could always be. "Please, Dad," I pleaded softly, my eyes pleading as I looked at him. "We have to go. We need to do this together." As the room buzzed with tension, my father eventually nodded, his shoulders slumping in resignation. "Okay, but stay safe, watch out for each other." In a whirlwind, we gathered our things, a hoodie to keep me warm and a flashlight from the kitchen. Jason grabbed his keys with purpose, and soon we were darting out the door. The outside world was engulfed in a strange stillness, eerie but punctuated by the distant wail of sirens. The car was filled with silence, punctuated only by the sound of the engine and my nervous breathing. Glancing sideways, I saw Jason focused on the road, a head determined, unyielding. I couldn't help but think back to the words he had said earlier, about embracing our messiness. I felt vulnerable, yet there was a raw honesty in my resolve that seemed to push me forward as we approached the school. A knot twisted tighter in my gut, the dim lights of the building casting shadows that danced ominously in the night. But just as I began to entertain the thought of what was happening inside the walls meant for education and safety, Jason's voice broke through the tension. "Hey, it's going to be all right, I promise," he said, breaking the silence with genuine warmth. "No matter what we find in there, you won't face it alone." But before I could respond, a familiar face stepped into the road ahead. Lucas, my little brother, appearing almost as if summoned by my thoughts. "Lucas!" I shouted, relief washing over me as I scrambled out of the car, racing towards him. But the joy quickly turned to confusion when I noticed the terrified expression on his face. He was clutching something tightly to his chest, and as the adrenaline coursed through me, I felt a sense of impending dread wash over me again. "Lucas, what's wrong?" I asked, my voice cracking slightly. "I saw it, Alice," he stammered, eyes wide and fearful. "There was someone outside with a mask. They were looking for something or someone. I don't know." I was so scared the weight of his words landed heavily in the air between us, freezing my breath in my throat. Every instinct screamed at me to gather him close, to shield him from the world hidden behind the school doors. But the thought of a threat lurking nearby turned my blood cold and my heart raced in a heartbeat. Everything changed again. As I glanced back toward Jason, I caught his expression, worry mixed with resolve, as if he sensed the shift in atmosphere as well. The gravity of what Lucas had seen set in, plunging us into a new layer of uncertainty. This wasn't just about our family now. It was about something much larger, something far more threatening than I had ever imagined. And we were stepping deeper into the unknown, with one shocking revelation after another unfolding before us. A chill swept through me, coiling tightly around my spine as Lucas continued to tremble, his small frame seemingly swallowed by the enormity of the situation. "Please," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Can we go home? I don't want to be near here anymore." I knelt down to meet his frightened eyes, my heart aching for him. "I know it's scary, but you have to tell me everything, okay? We can't leave you alone if something is happening." I needed him to trust me, to believe that I would protect him, even as my own fear threatened to overwhelm me. Lucas swallowed hard, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting the masked figure to emerge suddenly from the shadows again. I was with my friends, but then he hesitated, his thoughts tangled in a web of confusion. I saw him by the trees. He was looking at the school and then he fidgeted with the object in his hands, and I reached forward cautiously. "What do you have there?" I asked gently, trying to divert his attention from the fear creeping in. He unclenched his fingers, revealing a small, worn-out teddy bear, its eye button missing and one ear frayed. It was his, the same bear he clung to every night. A relic of his childhood that should have offered comfort but instead seemed to add another layer of dread to this moment. Took it with me. I thought maybe it would help if something happened," Lucas stammered, his eyes welling up with tears. "Oh, buddy," I murmured, enveloping him in my arms, feeling his heartbeat against my chest. "There's nothing to be scared of here. You're safe. We're together and Jason's here too." I glanced back at Jason, who stood a few feet away, scanning the perimeter of the school grounds, ready to act at a moment's notice. A flash of determination filled me as I pushed through my own fears. "Lucas," I said, pulling back to look him in the eyes, "I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" He nodded, albeit slowly, as if the act of bravery was too immense for his small body. "Okay," he whispered, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Jason approached us, his face set with focus. "We can't linger too long here. Stay close to me and Alice. If anything feels off, we bolt." He didn't need to say more. His presence was enough. He carried an air of quiet strength that I desperately clung to, reminding me that we weren't alone in this fight. So we stepped cautiously toward the school entrance. The hum of the outside world faded into a muffled symphony of chaos, nearly unnoticeable now in the wake of Lucas' terrifying revelation. But my thoughts raced as I tried to piece together the fragments of what was unfolding. Why would someone be lurking near the school? Was there more than one? What did they want? Just then a flicker of movement caught my eye, causing me to halt. In the shadows cast by the flickering street lights, I thought I saw someone darting between the playground equipment, their silhouette unmistakably cloaked in dark clothing. My pulse quickened, and the smothering sensation of dread returned, permeating the air around us. "Jason," I whispered urgently, pointing toward the movement. He grasped my arm protectively, scanning the area with heightened caution. "Stay here, both of you," he commanded, moving closer to the edge of the yard, half hidden by the low-rise fence. But I began, panic flaring in my chest as I envisioned him confronting whatever threat might be lurking. "I'll be right back," he reassured me without a glance, shifting cautiously toward the source of the movement. Clutching Lucas tightly, I watched as Jason, a silhouette of bravery amidst escalating fear, closed the gap between us and the unknown. The seconds felt like hours, stretching out in agonizing suspense. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm, wishing desperately that he would just turn back and come to us. "Stay low," I instructed Lucas in an anxious whisper, pulling him down beside me as we crouched behind a low wall leading to the school entrance. If it was a threat, we needed to be strategic about our next moves. The minutes crawled by, heavy with anticipation, until I finally heard Jason's voice break the night's thick silence. "Hey, show yourself," he called, challenging the unseen figure to confront him. A pause ensued, one that seemed to stretch infinitely, before I heard the soft rustle of movement. My pulse quickened. I tensed, ready to lead Lucas away if needed. "Stop. We don't want any trouble," Jason shouted, firm yet layered with an unspoken fear. This wasn't just Jason bravado. I could feel the urgency behind his tone. Then, unmistakably, a voice slipped through the darkness, a voice I recognized. "Jason. Alice." It was Erin, my best friend. But why was she here? I breathed a sigh of immense relief until confusion entangled my thoughts. What was she doing outside the school during the lockdown? Moments later, Erin stepped into the light, breathless and wide-eyed, her hair disheveled and clothes rumpled. "Too saw someone acting suspicious. There's news, Alice. Something's happened. You need to come with me." I exchanged a worried glance with Jason, and the air thickened with uncertainty. "What do you mean?" I managed, my voice quaking as Lucas clung tightly to my leg. Erin hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty clouding her features. "There was an incident near the Skola fight and the police are looking for a few kids." I thought maybe she trailed off, glancing back toward the shadows where she emerged. "Kids? What are you talking about?" My heart raced with the rush of adrenaline. What was happening? But before Erin could answer, a sudden loud bang erupted from inside the building, rattling the very foundation beneath us. My breath caught, spikes of panic lancing through me. "Go. We need to get inside," Jason shouted, pulling me up to my feet. In that instant it became unmistakable this strange night had twisted into something unfathomably dangerous. And whatever lay ahead felt like the rupture of a dam that would unleash the torrent of everything we had feared, unraveling, engulfing us all in a whirlpool of uncertainty. I grabbed Lucas's hand tightly, steeling myself for whatever awaited as we darted toward the school's entrance. The facade of safety blurred, and we were heading deeper into the unknown, and with every step, it felt as though we were inching closer to the heart of darkness. The doors flew open with a resounding crash, the hollow echo reverberating through the empty halls of the school. A cold gust rushed past us, catching my breath as we stepped inside, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead like fading stars. Instinctively, I shielded Lucas behind me, my heart racing as dread crept back in. We were only trading one layer of danger for another. "Stay close, don't let go of my hand," I urged, feeling the weight of my words hanging heavily between us. Jason moved ahead, placing himself as a barrier between us and whatever lay in the shadows of this deserted building. Erin glanced back at the entrance, her expression a mix of panic and urgency. "We shouldn't be here," she said, her voice trembling. "The principal said everyone should stay put." "Then what are you doing outside?" I shot back, frustration mixing with fear. It was impossible to understand if she had good intentions or if we were teetering on the brink of an even bigger disaster. She began. But the crack of distant voices silenced her. They echoed up from the halls, tense and frantic. I recognized the sound of fear, the cadence of desperation that seeped into every syllable. Maybe we can find help. We should look for the others, Jason managed, already heading toward the nearest classroom. His face bore a grim determination that both calmed and terrified me. He was ready to take charge, but that also meant he was stepping deeper into danger. Before I could voice my concerns, Lucas pulled on my sleeve. I turned to him, seeing the frightened glimmer in his eyes. What if it's the bad man? He whispered, trembling. What if he finds us? I knelt down, trying to meet his eyes with a fierce certainty I didn't entirely feel. We won't let that happen, I promise, I told him, squeezing his hand. Stick with me, okay? You're brave, remember? As the words left my mouth, a surge of guilt washed over me. I was fighting to keep us safe, but what kind of promise was I really making? The events of the evening had shifted into a surreal nightmare, making me question every decision. Aaron grabbed my arm gently. We'll find a way out. If there are people acting suspiciously, they might not be just kids. Could be. Suddenly, the lights flickered more violently, plunging us into near darkness before they stabilized again. The oppressive silence deepened, and for a moment, I felt every ounce of tension snap taut in the air. Before my thoughts could spiral any further, Jason thrust open a classroom door. This way, he called, gesturing for us to follow. I took one last look back at the entrance, the open door both a portal and a reminder of the chaos outside. Inside the classroom, desks sat abandoned, chairs toppled over as if someone had barreled out in a hurry. The chaos felt eerily reflective of our own situation. Look for a phone or anything we can use to call for help, Jason directed, rifling through papers scattered across the floor. I scanned the room in parallel silence, Lucas pressed tight against me, his grip clutching with the desperation of a child who clung to the remnants of a fading dream. I could feel his tiny heart racing through the fabric of my shirt, the tension passing from him to me in heavy waves. Then I spotted something, a cell phone lying among the debris, beneath a broken chair. I found it, I exclaimed, kneeling to retrieve it, but the moment my fingers brushed against its speckled case, a chilling realization coursed through me. It was dead, the screen black and cold. As I looked up, Jason frowned, the fire in his determination flickering. We need to find a landline. The office has to have one. We can call the police. The urgency propelled us out of the classroom and further into the hallways, the air thick with fear and uncertainty. Every creak of the floor beneath us felt amplified. Every whisper of wind through the cracks seemed to beckon danger. Just then, Aaron halted abruptly, pointing down the hall. Look, there are lights up ahead. Hope sliced through the dread momentarily, and we rushed forward, breathless and alert. As we neared the end of the hall, the lights illuminated a large conference room, the glass door partially ajar. Jason pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit room full of empty chairs and the remnants of a hastily abandoned meeting. My eyes flitted over the room until they landed on a decaying flyer taped to the wall. The words "School Safety Meeting" faded but still legible. Beneath it was a message scrawled in a mess of ink, almost unintelligible. We find what's missing. My heart raced as I bent closer, absorbing the words. What could that mean? What was missing? Alice. Look at this, Jason interrupted, drawing my attention toward the corner of the room. A small table lay overturned, books strewn about its surface, and among them was a black notebook, pages fluttering as if freshly disturbed by a brisk wind. I approached, suddenly feeling the weight of ominous tension intensifying. Jason flipped it open, its pages showcasing sketches of the school premises, the playground, and strange messages scrawled across the margins. My blood turned to ice as the words began to crystallize in my mind. They're coming for the files, one read. We know how to get inside. Panic clawed at my throat as Jason scanned the room. Does anyone know what this means? But before any additional questions could be asked, a heavy thud echoed from somewhere down the hallway, followed by a muffled Shoyuta chilling cacophony that sent adrenaline surging through my system. Run! Jason bellowed, his command piercing the heavy fog of uncertainty, and without thinking I grabbed Lucas' hand, sprinting after him, our breath rising in frantic clouds of fear. The cold grip of dread wrapped itself around my heart again as we dashed deeper into the maze of corridors. Where would we find safety? What shadows lurked just out of sight, waiting for us to let our guard down? With every step over the cracked tiles, uncertainty chased us, weaving a tapestry of fear that was too real to escape. But just as hope began to fade, I caught a glimpse of something shimmering in the distance, a light breaking through the encroaching darkness. Where there was light, there was a possibility of safety, a flicker of hope that whispered the promise of redemption. And as we charged toward it, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was someone or something waiting just around the corner, ready to obliterate any semblance of safety we dared to pursue. We barreled down the hallway, urgency driving us forward like a gust of wind. But just as we reached the shimmering light at the end of the corridor, I skidded to a halt. My instincts screamed for caution, and I caught a glimpse of the source of the glow, a doorway bathed in a golden aura. A strange sense of calm washed over me, battling the rising tide of tension. "What are you doing?" Jason urged, glancing back at me, his eyes pleading for speed. "We have to get out now." The radiant light beckoned in stark contrast to the chaos around us, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it held answers. "Wait," I whispered, pulling Lucas close as I moved cautiously toward the door, my body tingling with an inexplicable energy. Pushing it ajar, I was met with an unexpected sight. The room was filled with strings of twinkling fairy lights draped from the ceiling, and a makeshift table was lined with what looked like food. Battered cardboard boxes overflowed with snacks, emergency supplies stacked in neat rows. But the air was thick with the scent of something that felt both welcoming and disorienting, a mix of childhood nostalgia and anxiety. As I stepped inside, the warmth enveloped me, igniting a flicker of hope. But before I could take a personal inventory, the door slammed shut behind us, locking us in the oasis as panic pulsed through the others' expressions. "Is this a trap?" Erin's voice trembled as she pressed her back against the door. Her face paled. "I don't think so," I stammered, my eyes scanning the room. This could be a place for shelter. But even as the words left my mouth, doubt whispered its way into my thoughts. Was this simply a decoy? Had we stumbled into someone's cunning ploy instead of sanctuary? "Look over here." Jason's urgent call cut through my spiraling apprehension. He had discovered a makeshift bulletin board plastered with photographs and handwritten notes. Most of them appeared innocuous. These were snapshots of students celebrating events, surrounded by smiling faculty. However, mixed in were darker images and snippets of unsettling notes, recapping moments of confusion and dread. "It's like a history of the bad things that have happened here," Jason muttered under his breath. "Why would someone keep this? What if it's a warning?" Erin's wide eyes darted between the photographs, an intensity one hadn't seen in her before emerging in her stance. "What if they did something terrible in this school and now they want to cover it up?" Lucas clutched my hand tighter, his small frame trembling. "I want to go home," he whispered, his innocent plea slicing through the tension. I knelt beside him, swallowing the rush of emotions that threatened to overflow. "Me too, buddy," I said softly, brushing my fingers through his hair. "But we need to find out why we're here first." Beneath the intimidating weight of fear, an unexpected kindness emerged from this bizarre refuge. It was as if, despite our circumstances, we were gifted fleeting moments of warmth, troublingly cloaked within the ongoing storm. Jason gestured towards the back of the room. "There's what looks like an office space back there. Maybe there's something valuable, documents, phones, anything." His determination reignited the flicker of hope, and I nodded, urging Lucas to stay on my heels as we followed Jason toward the small room cloaked in shadows. As we moved closer, I felt a wave of trepidation crash over me. What if this led to more trouble? What if lurking in the darkness was the very threat we feared? The merging of hope and fear was intoxicating. It sent my heart racing, a dance of adrenaline I had never experienced before. The dimly lit office revealed a desk, half cleared, papers scattered like remnants of despair. Something glittered amongst the Chowson old, dusty laptop. It sat off to the side, the screen cracked but still pulsating with life as blue light shimmered through its cracks. "I can't believe it," Jason whispered reverently. "It might still work." His hand shook slightly as he approached with tentative reverence, the tension in the air shifting, like a tightrope of anticipation. Behind him, I glanced back through the entryway to the main room. The glowing lights continued their dance, a golden halo beyond the reach of the encroaching shadows. But before Jason could reach the laptop, a muffled sound set my heart ablaze. "Aga," in a swift shuffle just beyond the door, the sound of footsteps. Fear surged through me and I turned sharply to Jason. "Listen," I whispered, feeling my pulse race. Erin's eyes widened with dread, and in that fleeting moment, we all shared the same instinctive understanding: the sanctuary we'd longed for might soon plunge into peril. The door rattled ominously, as if someone was trying to break through. Our breaths stilled, caught in our throats, anticipation and fear intertwining like sections of fraying rope. And as the footsteps grew louder, the screech and tremor of the structure around us began to feel like a countdown. Just as panic surged, a voice cut through the atmosphere, raspy and raw. "I know you're in there. You can't hide forever." The words echoed off the walls, sending goosebumps prickling along my skin. Who was this? My mind raced with fear and endless questions. Were we trapped? Should we confront the unknown? What do we do? Jason breathed, his face pale, but his eyes flickered with determination as he scanned the room for a way out. I could feel the weight of my decisions pressing down like an anchor. We could stay hidden, living in the fragile cocoon of hope within this sparkling room, or we could face whatever danger awaited on the other side. But just as the voice sounded again, imposing and taunting, a moment of clarity struck Met. His wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about uncovering the secrets lurking within these walls, about unraveling the darkness that blurred the boundaries of safety and fear. My heart raced, the door becoming a portal to an unending abyss. I took a deep breath, readying myself for the unknown, knowing that whatever lay waiting for us outside held the power to shatter or redefine everything. And then the voice grew stronger, filled with a sickening satisfaction. "What's missing will be found." Even as those chilling words reverberated around us, I grasped Lucas's shoulder, my grip firm and reassuring despite the tumult rolling inside me. It was an instinctual decision fueled by my growing sense of responsibility for him. No matter what awaited us outside that door, I would not let fear dictate our journey. "Stay close," I whispered, a soothing urgency driving my words home. Lucas nodded, his trust in me evident in the wide eyes that still bore a flicker of hope. I turned back to the others, willing to face this newfound unknown together. Jason stole a glance at the door, then back at the laptop. "We can't just wait around. We need to make a plan," he insisted, determination returning to his voice. Erin shifted her weight anxiously, casting furtive glances between the door and the labyrinth of shadows surrounding us. "We should look for a weapon or something," Erin suggested, her voice quaking slightly but filled with urgency. "What if they get in? Or what if they don't?" I countered, hoping to spark a hint of courage among us. "We don't know what's beyond that door. We might need to confront this head-on." Before Jason could object, the door creaked, resonating with a low groan that sent a jolt of ice coursing through my veins. I felt the vibrations thrum in my bones, and as the voice echoed again, it transformed from a mere threat into a bitter promise. "You can pretend to be safe, but every secret has a way of being uncovered." In that moment, I realized something. Vitali could feel the weight of my own secrets pressing against my chest, holding my heart captive. It wasn't just the school's riddles that needed to be solved. It was the burdens I had carried for far too long. Lucas, Jason, and Erin had come to mean everything to me, but how could I lead them if I was tangled in my own web of failures? Suddenly, the lights flickered, a response to our escalating anxiety, and my mind instinctively darted back to the bulletin board. Those faces smiling from the photographs became a stark reminder of the lives touched by this place. Lives that may have known both joy and sorrow within these very walls. "Wait," I murmured, piecing together my thoughts as clarity washed over me amid the chaos. What if whatever is going on here has roots in the failures of the people who were here before us? Jason and Erin exchanged glances, confusion knitting their brows, but then I saw a spark of understanding ignite in their eyes. "What if we're part of a larger story?" I continued, urgency propelling my words forward. "What if understanding what has happened here might lead us not just to escape but to uncover the core of this darkness?" They pondered the implications, and I hoped the flicker of courage ignited within their hearts. Just then the voice echoed louder, more forceful. "Ignorance is a powerful ally. But time isn't on your side." The revelation shattered my thoughts as the door rattled more violently, making the air feel electric. My blood ran cold, and I felt the weight of Jason's and Erin's eyes upon me, waiting for a resolution that was now imposed on us by a shared urgency. "We don't have time," Erin urged, shaking her head as if to dispel her fears. "We need to find a way out." Before I could respond, the door suddenly quaked with a renewed vigor as it shuddered against its frame. With a heavy heart, I realized that confrontation was inevitable. I had to steer us towards a path that embraced both our vulnerability and strength. "All right, race the plan," I said, my heart thumping, my resolve hardening against the rising tide of despair. We grab anything that might help us defend ourselves. We brace for whatever's outside. But we don't lose sight of why we're here together. To uncover the truth that I started searching the office space for anything that could be of use, sharp objects, anything to fortify our courage. Jason rifled through the papers, letting out gasps as a few photographs slipped from the clutter, revealing familiar faces. These people, they're connected to me in some way, he said incredulously, squinting at the faded images as if they might hold the key to our next steps. My cousin, she went missing years ago. A chill rolled down my spine, unraveling a thread of anguish deep within. It struck me that this place was not just a school. It was woven fabric filled with loss, hope, and unknown connections. I shot him a glance, eyes wide with realization. Perhaps his story was one of countless threads that created a Paterna haunting mosaic that painted the fears and losses of countless lives. Your cousin? Here. My voice barely broke through as my mind raced, connecting dots that had previously evaded me. As Jason nodded, his fingers trembling against the photograph, my heartbeat thrummed with urgency. Whatever had happened here was shaping more than just our present. It was intricately tied to our pasts, perhaps to our very identities. Suddenly, the door shook once more, another powerful heave, the voice now close enough to deliver the screeching promise, "You won't find reconciliation in secrecy." A rush of collective resolve ignited between us as I turned briefly to Lucas, his wide eyes reflecting both fear and trust. And in that simmering determination, I found a flicker of hope, the thing we needed most. Connection fortified by understanding, fueled by the urgency of the choices that lay ahead. But before we could react, a massive crash erupted as the door splintered, sending fragments scattering into the room. I spun around, bracing myself for the impending confrontation, anxiety curling itself around my heart. And then the figure that stepped through was both shocking and familiar. A ghost from our past brought to life, sending a tremor of disbelief racing through my core. "What are you all doing here?" they asked, incredulity lacing their voice. And that moment of shocking revelation, I felt everything shift, the foundation of our predicament trembling beneath the weight of the truth that would change everything we thought we knew. The figure stood before us in a haze of disbelief and confusion, and for a heartbeat, it was as if the world had spun on its axis, uprooting the very ground we stood upon. It was Lily, a classmate whom I had lost touch with years prior, a girl whose laughter had once filled the hallways, now morphed into something entirely different, threaded with shadows of our shared past. "Lily," I managed, blinking against the kaleidoscope of emotions flooding my heart. The remnants of nostalgia clashed with the reality of our surroundings, and I felt engulfed by a wave of uncertainty. What was she doing here? "You shouldn't be here," she insisted, her eyes flashing with urgency, scanning the room and then landing squarely on me. "You don't understand what's happening." "What do you mean?" Jason's voice cut through the thick tension. "What's happened to your cousin? What do you know about this place?" Lily's gaze flickered nervously toward the doorway, where the remnants of the shattering door still splintered in our reality. "The school. It's not safe. They're trying to erase Usanian who knows the truth. This isn't just about kids acting out. It's about covering up a legacy of pain." "Then tell us," Erin demanded, the urgency in her tone palpable. "How do we escape? What happened here?" Lily took a slow breath, glancing back toward the door before inching closer, her voice reduced to a whisper. "They've hidden away everyone who came searching for answers, muffled truths buried deep within the walls of this school. My cousin, she was among them. She tried to expose it, but she disappeared instead, and my family," her voice faltered, "they were silenced." My heart sank, recognizing the weight of her words, echoed through our own struggles and fears. They resonated with the uncertainty we had all felt, pressing forward against the tide of shadows that swallowed the hopeful light of our truths. Here was a piece of the puzzle, one long overlooked, but it was not enough without a clear direction. "Then we need to find your cousin," I offered, a newfound determination igniting within me. "We can't let them take anyone else." "But how?" Jason interjected, the air thickening with the impending urgency of our situation. "We barely know where to look. They keep files locked away, records, identities, everything they've hoped to erase from memory. They've built an empire of secrets that feeds on the silence of those lost," Lily replied, her voice laced with a mixture of frustration and fear. "We need to find the archives." A flicker of realization passed between us. an invisible thread weaving our collective purpose into something we could grasp. The archives? I echoed, piecing together the fragments of Lily's message. The records must be kept somewhere central. That might be our way to uncover everything. The two of them nodded, and a sense of camaraderie surged among us as the scattered pieces began to form an outlinean image of what we might become if we could confront the darkness together. But how do we get there if they know we're here? Lucas asked, his small voice trembling slightly, reminding me of the stakes we faced. Without hesitating, I crouched down before him, holding his gaze steady. We are brave, remember? I whispered, hoping to ignite reassurance. We've made it this far together and we won't stop now. Keep holding tight, okay? His hand gripped mine, the warmth of it grounding me against the background of fear. Okay, he breathed, the courage of a child seeped in innocence shining through the worry. It was that courage, the kind we all longed for, that propelled me forward. Jason leaned in closer to Lily, lowering his voice to a tense whisper. Lead us to the archives. We'll figure out how to break Ina plan to expose whatever they're hiding. We won't let them take anyone else. The determination in his words was infectious, a flicker of hope igniting amid our shadows unraveling into a collective flame that would guide us through the turmoil. In that moment of clarity, the unknown loomed not just as a fearsome entity, but as a battlefield one where every truth unearthed might cast us into. Light with her eyes flashing with a newfound purpose, Lily nodded. This way. We moved as one, the five of us weaving through the shadows toward the exit of the makeshift shelter, momentum building behind us as our collective resolve surged. Each step echoed like a heartbeat, a symphony of daughter, son, brother, sister fighting against past fears in pursuit of an uncertain future. Navigating the halls, a sharp awareness settled in the pit of my stomach. The air around thickened with unspoken struggles that had become woven into my very being. I felt connected to each of them, no longer trapped within the confines of my own failures, but emerging as something larger than myself, a part of a family forged in the chaos of uncertainty. We neared the archway leading into the history section, a shadowy corridor painted in muted hues. I glanced back at Jason, then to Lily and Aaron, stealing my resolve. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed from the opposite direction, dark and menacing in the stillness. Run! I shouted, my voice ringing with conviction. We bolted forward, hearts pounding as we reached for the narrow hallway that led toward the archives. The door loomed ahead, but suddenly it was being slammed shut from the inside, locking us out. Panic surged through my veins, but the fire ignited a courageous spark deep within. There was no letting fear dictate our actions now. We had come too far. Find a way. We are getting in, Jason shouted, pulling against the door, fueled by adrenaline. My heart swelled with pride at how quickly we united in purpose. Together we pushed against the door, channeling every ounce of our strength into an unyielding determination to break through whatever walls had kept our truths hidden. Just as it seemed we would falter, the door cracked open slightly, a wavering light spilling out like a beacon through the darkness. Get in! Lily yelled, urging us through. All at once we surged forward together, charging through the portal into the archives. My breath caught in my throat as I scanned the room, filled to the brim with shelves of yellowing papers, every corner holding secrets disguised as history, our fractured past now awaiting reconciliation. I turned to my companions, Jason, Aaron, Lucas, and Lily, each carrying the weight of hope in their hearts. Here, amidst the remnants of darkness, we would fight for redemption, for understanding, and more importantly, to reclaim what had been lost. There, Aaron pointed, motioning toward a row of cabinets labeled with dates and names, their dusty surfaces beckoning us closer. If we can get those files, we can start to unravel everything. As we spread throughout the room, my fingers brushed over the pages, aching for connections. It dawned on me, this was our moment of truce. Beyond the chaos of the present, every secret we unearthed would allow us to finally face our fears. With every file we opened, revelations waiting to leap from the pages, I felt the pain of our struggles simmer and boil into something transfiguring. Each letter, each story scratched across the paper, rewoven into the tapestry of our intertwined fates, rendered me raw yet liberated. This was what it meant to forge ahead together, embrace the beauty of our imperfections and confront the past. We would emerge from this not just surviving but thriving, an intricate mosaic bearing the marks of our challenges. As I turned to face my companions, our eyes sparkling with resolve amid the shadows. I knew in that moment that we were not merely reclaiming lost truths. We were redefining our very existence, bringing our fractured family back together piece by piece. And amid the chaos that had once threatened to consume us, I felt the stirrings of hope once more. We would write our own stories and rise anew from the remnants, just like the tales waiting in the archives, desperate to break free and be heard. With every step forward, I understood that the essence of redemption lay not in seeking refuge from the past but in boldly confronting it, a powerful acceptance, not just of ourselves but of the journey that awaited. Together we would create a future brimming with light, echoing with laughter and healing. As we stood poised at the threshold of the incredible stories, yet to unfold, a family no longer burdened by disappointment, but woven together in unyielding loyalty. In that triumphal moment, I turned at our threshold, whispering a vow into the quiet chaos that surrounded us. We may have been lost, but we will always find our way home.